This video was edited entirely end to end by Claude Code. And this system knows my taste and itself improves over time to get faster, better, and even more polished. All I need to do is take the raw recording, hand it off to Claude, and it does the rest. It handles all the cuts, removes all the silences, and keeps only the best takes. It does motion graphics just like this. And it even handles dynamic frames like this, like this, like this, like this, and this. And it even does subtitles just like this, or hero titles just like this. And even if you're like me and you're terrible at editing, it's totally cool. You get the same polished results every single time. I've made this super easy, and this will edit even while you step away from your computer or even while you sleep. So follow along and I'll show you how to build one too. All right, so now that you've seen the end result, I'm gonna take you through step-by-step how to build this yourself so you can turn Claude into your own video editor. I'm gonna start at a high level and then I'll actually go step-by-step in assembling the edits for the video. By the way, everything that you see here is available in my school community. In my school community for AI builders, this exact setup is already ready to go. The secret sauce, the step-by-step, all of my presets, everything that you can take and plug and play. This is my weeks and months of just training and training and training to almost get these kind of one-shot style edits. That way I don't spend hours refining. So if you want access to this, the link is below. And this is for everyone to just take these, plug and play, get the foundation and make it yours. So let's get back to it. At a high level, I'm going to take us through what happens, and then everything you see in the video inside Claude Code is exactly every step of the build. So how the editing process works, this works out of hyperframes. Sure, some people say, is remotion better than hyperframes? Honestly, they're kind of the same to me. I prefer hyperframes though because of HTML and GSAP, and just the way it edits feels nimbler and lighter and a little bit. It's just a lot less heavy of a build for the type of content that I'm doing. The next thing is it's going to transcribe and do a rough cut, right? So it's going to find fillers, all that fun stuff. It uses Whisper X, and that's important because Whisper X instead of Whisper X will get word level timing in the transcription. So this means that it'll find the dead spaces between words, and it'll also apply motion graphics and captions synced directly to the transcript. The next thing that it'll do is there's going to be a style and format. So basically I have 3 presets that I use for Instagram. I have style 1, 2, and 3. I have a short form kind of explainer, a long form, and then a more raw style for TikTok. The next thing is kind of the visuals. So this is like, are you going to give B-roll? Are you going to capture it? Like, do you want to generate motion graphics only or get a mixture of everything? The next thing that's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and plan the graphics, right? Like before we even build, all of this is just planning. Plan. So that way, as it gets assembled, you don't have to do a lot of steering at the end. That was the most frustrating part of this entire thing. If there's one thing that I cannot say enough as you build this, make sure you have a graphics plan first before even building any of that stuff. Because this will save you a lot of headache. This allows you to keep your taste in there, and that way it doesn't just go off running and get that all into play. Then you want to make sure that you plan the frames. So what's going to happen is I have Claude assemble like a static image of everything. So it holds the big picture. There's an orchestrator that plans out the frames. It gives me a visual of every single one of those so I can kind of see and inspect and give feedback even before motion graphics are done. It's kind of like a preview on what it's going to allow subagents to build. And then we go to generate. So I allow Claude then to go off and run. And how it works is an orchestrator sits at the top, and it's the one that planned all the frames. It lets subagents run all the execution. And then when the subagents verify their own work, which is like kind of like loop engineering, right? Verify against the contract. It comes back to the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator verifies that, yes, this is good to go. So it has this review loop. So that way you're not looking at everything. And this keeps going until this entire pass is done. And then you review, and there's really oftentimes like now I only ever polish once, and it's like light level stuff. Like 90% of it's done at this point. Then we polish. The next phase is then to go into captions, because once all the visuals are locked in, caption placement gets there, so that way it doesn't collide with any of the visuals on there and nothing overlaps. Then the last thing we do is music and sound effects, and then it finalizes and gets rid of all of the drafts and previews that we worked on. And then at finalize, it writes everything back to the memory of what worked, what I liked, and it adds those to my approved taste. It learns from the mistakes it made, so that way the next time it doesn't make those same mistakes and does it even better. By the way, that's also in that composition that I have in the school community. You can just download and plug in. Otherwise, make sure you add a learning system. All right, so let's roll on to the next step. I want you to see some of the raw video, and I'm not going to force you to watch the entire thing, but I want you to see what the raw take looked like. And that way you have an idea with what we're working with and what this is going to be like inside of Claude Code. So this is the raw video. It's kind of weird watching myself. Claude Code. And let's just go from the beginning. This video was edited entirely end to end by Claude Code. And this system knows my taste, and it self-improves over time to get faster, better, and even more polished. All I do is get a good recording, all right, so you can see where I've kind of messed up a couple of different things, and then how I record, I actually don't do everything in one shot. I go kind of scene by scene or thought by thought. So without further ado, let's go ahead and fire up Claude Code and start running the process. All right, so I've got Claude Code fired up, and I'm going to do this out of the app. I've actually started to really love the Claude Code app, by the way. I used to be a diehard terminal guy, but the app is really growing on me. So I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, I've got a video ready to go here in the work list. Let's go ahead and queue it up for editing. Cool. So what's going to happen now is it's going to look in that folder where I drop all of my raw videos, and it's going to start there, and it's going to start kind of pulling directly from it and starting kind of a new project. So I'll let it kind of do its thing, and then I'll come back here as it finishes working off. That way you don't have to go through every single little bit here. Okay, so actually it's going a little bit quicker than I thought we would be. So it's really just going through, it's already moved it over into a different project container. So it started a new folder that has this video and the edits that we're going to be doing and the project end to end. So it's put it in its new folder, and it's keeping the raw video. That way it doesn't get like entirely deleted. I like to keep the raw and then the final at the end. It's created a work log, and then before it goes in, it's going to ask me here, like, what style is this, right? What's the format? And I basically have 3 different Instagram reel styles. I have kind of a TikTok, kind of raw talking head style, and then like YouTube long form or just like a short form explainer. So a couple of different styles, and then the visual palette, like what do I need to give it? So it's gonna ask me like, am I dropping in existing B-roll? It doesn't need to go to real websites if I'm talking about like a GitHub repo or something like that, or motion graphics only, or a mix. I'm gonna say, because I want this to go onto Instagram, and I'll do others like this. Let's go with Real Style 3, and then we'll just do motion graphics all the way. Cool. So that's the first gate. This is like kind of planning out the style and all that fun stuff. So now it has kind of the rough kind of direction of this, and now it's going to do the rough cut. So the rough cut is where it's going through, it's parsing, it's running this through WhisperX, and going to pull the entire transcript with the timestamps and start finding like what are the bad takes, what are the silences that need to be cut out, and it's going to go ahead and run that. So I'll pause here, let it finish running, and then we'll pick back up once it's done. Okay, so one thing that I want you to see while it's finishing its work, while it's doing the transcript, it's actually looking at like, so it's learning from actually the last time I did a style 3 and bringing those in. So it's just, this is some of the cool stuff that you see along the way of how it's really just improved itself over time in learning. So let's keep going. All right, so it's done, and basically it's cut it down now to 59, like it trimmed out like 20 seconds. So one of the advantages also to working out of the app is I don't have to open anything in the folder. It just like is served up right here, so I can give it a quick listen. This video was edited entirely end to end by Claude Code. And this system knows my taste and itself improves over time to get faster, better, and even more polished. All I need to do is take the raw recording, hand it off to Claude, and it does the rest. It handles all the cut. All right, this is way better already. So it cut out like so much of those bad cuts. And it gave me kind of the rough cut, like all the stuff that it what it kind of found. So trimmed down a lot of the stuff, which is great. So it found a couple of things I actually was too high when I was recording, but that's fine. But yep, the cut looks good. Everything's pretty solid. So the next thing that I will say is, just because I recorded a little bit too high, I would be fine if you, in place of the 20% margin where I messed it up, you can do a little bit of head out of frame on that one to essentially spoof some of the margin there that'll be needed for that text. So that's my piece of feedback as you hit the graphics plan. Cool, and then we will let that run. Okay, so the graphics plan is done, and this is what I mean by like, it does like kind of frame plans. So you can see one of the areas where I kind of screwed up the shot, which is fine, but this is what it's calling out. Like it has some visuals here, and it has the graphics plan. So it gives me like basically what are the changes, which actually this is great. Mode change, pace 4, hero lockup. All right, I'm gonna take a look at the cut sheet. The mode, and I have different frames that are in here. And then dynamic frames, B, yeah, that's great. And here are titles, all right. All this is great. So I think this gives a really strong one, like, so it has strongest ideas and any open decisions. So what I will say is it has some of the trade-offs. And what I will say is no, I don't like that. What I'll do is we'll do the recommended. I'm actually good with what you've planned out. The C recommended with the word shifted, I actually like that. It's kind of tasteful and changes it up. And then let's see here, hero geometry, no dead air, captions. Yep, the plan is great. I've read it and it looks good to go. Cool. So it's gonna go ahead and start building. And one of the things that, like, this is the longest phase, right? Like, so for the next, this can take probably, I'd say 25 to 30 minutes. And one of the things that I don't do, and this is actually how it works underneath the hood, and I've designed it around kind of my flavoring, it uses sub-agents to keep the context window clean. Because you'll notice when I look at mine, like my context window, it's only at 24%. And by the end of it, we'll probably be at like 40-ish%. And then, I'm at like 6% of my 5-hour limit. So I'm going to like kind of keep that as a grounding mechanism, so like how much does this actually eat. But number two, sometimes you can use like any of the you can use dynamic workflows with Ultra Code, but I feel like that's honestly like a giant waste of tokens. I actually prefer a sub-agent driven workflow where it has Sonnet agents kind of build, but right now what it's doing is it's speccing out, and I'll show you in just a minute. It's gonna do kind of a frame setup, so it has like consistency, Then it's going to hand the work then to sub-agents to go and run the execution. And if there's something really hard, it's going to hand it off to an Opus agent. However, that's like few and far between. Most of this is executed by Sonnet. So I'm going to go ahead and let this kind of finish up getting the framing, and then I'll show you what happens right before it starts executing the full build. Okay, so here's the end of the graphics plan. And this is like the last most important step before we just turn it loose to building. And this is what I mean by like confirming for taste. So it builds this entire thing. It actually checked for errors and all that fun stuff. So Opus holds the big picture and then lays out a contact sheet. So I look at this, verify it has all of my brand colors, basically has everything that I want to see throughout the course of this and all of the cuts. It's like, this looks really good, but this allows me to kind of inject my final kind of taste in this process. So let's take a look in B06. What should the motion showcase be? Which I think is just fine. Like this one, it's all right. That's just fine. And the cascade, C1 through 5. Let's take a look here at C1 through 5. All right, it says 1 through 5 here, 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 here. Yep. All right. Only thing I'll confirm is, yeah, so B06 I think is fine for the cascade. Each of these, I want them to basically showcase each kind of frame style that we have. Like the mode changes the message. So I want like the frame to actually show the picture of every single frame that changes. That we have multiple frames as part of the dynamics. And the last thing, for BOA, I thought that was fine. I took a look there. I'm actually good with it. B08. All right, cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and just give that feedback. Cool. So, all right, that's my feedback here. And this is so important in the planning. Get the planning right at the beginning. Everything that it builds is incredible. So that way sub-agents that go out and actually build all the dynamics and the motion graphics all build according to the spec rather than like veering off track and you have to kind of re-steer 17 different frames. All right, so it took my feedback and it self-checked actually and just really made sure it had everything right, which is the beauty of this, right? There's loop engineering kind of baked in. So I'm going to take a look here on the final one. This is how it all looks. All right, this is awesome. This is what I wanted to make sure exists. And this is like the taste. You cannot get rid of this taste at the beginning. So again, plan everything ahead of time. The build becomes super fast. So I like it. I'm good with it. Now this is where all the magic happens. This is the longest part in terms of time. This will take probably about 25 or 30 minutes. So this is where I just walk away, do some chores, play with my kids, go to bed, come back the next morning, and then maybe do a refine pass. But this is the longest part in terms of like physical time, but let's go ahead and make it happen. This is approved. Let's go ahead and build. All right. So again, this is assigning now to sub-agents that are doing the work. I'm going to go ahead and let this finish instead of making you sit here for the next 30 minutes watching it. All right. So before I just get all the way to the end, I wanted you to see what it looks like inside of the actual builder. So really the biggest thing here that you're going to see is, all right, so the biggest thing that I want you to see in this process is that before it finishes up, I wanted you to see how it's kind of building. So it actually like checks the work. So you have an orchestrator checking the work of all the sub-agents, not paired off with their independent reviewers. Because again, Opus, the orchestrator, holds the big picture. It knows, think of it as kind of the whole creative director. And then as it sends these out to the sub-agents, it's doing in batches. That way it doesn't blow out the context window. And it also has the capacity to put out a batch, visualize, make sure that work was done correctly and it's tasteful and matches the contract. And then it dispatches the next bit. So it's very sequential. It doesn't go as fast as an Ultra Code dynamic workflow, but I've found that it's a faster way to get to the right result. Instead of a faster build, but then you're steering everything, one builder holds the big picture and directs all the work in a consistent way that matches exactly the taste I wanted. So I want to just point that out here and how it's building, and it's running this kind of hybrid workflow in the orchestration. And then it's going to go ahead and do that. So it's loop engineering kind of in a box. The builders go, they verify their own work, pass it back for confirmation. Once the orchestrator approves it, moves on to the next one. So I'll zoom forward to the end. Okay, so it finished running and it was about 30-ish minutes or so. This is a pretty dense one. It's very graphics heavy. So took the full 30 minutes. I actually had to grab my kids and take care of them. So it ended up being like 3 hours later than sitting back down. But this is it, and let's take a look at what it's done. This video was edited entirely end to end by Claude Code. And this system knows my taste and itself improves over time to get faster, better, and even more polished. All I need to do is take the raw recording, hand it off to Claude, and it does the rest. It handles all the cuts, removes all the silences, and keeps only the best takes. It does motion graphics just like this. And it even handles dynamic frames like this, like this, like this, like this, and this. And it even does subtitles just like this, or hero titles just like this. And even if you're like me and you're terrible at editing, it's totally cool. You get the same polished results every single time. I've made this super easy, and this will edit even while you step away from your computer or even while you sleep. So follow along and I'll show you how to build one too. So that was pretty sick. It actually kind of one-shotted this for the most part. And I would say this is like the polish phase. So this was really solid. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time kind of training this setup, but now we need to actually polish it. And I took some notes here of what I'd like to change. So here's what I'm going to give it feedback on. Overall, this looks really great. The things that I would like to change, though, are I see these like corner pink frames in different scenes. We can blow those away, get rid of those. And then there are these funny labels like Austin times Claude Code and subtitles and the steps. Like, get rid of those random things. And then when you're saying the steps like O1, rough cut, and O2, all that stuff, like make that legible. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me to have that in there. Like I don't. It kind of looks just bleh. I don't really love it. So get rid of those. It just adds visual noise. And then, but for the O1, O2, make those actually readable if they're something that's in the shot. So it needs to be important and add to the shot. The only other thing that I want to give feedback on is when we do the rough cut, it hands it off to Claude Code. Just put the Claude Code sprite in there. That way it's a little extra flair. But otherwise, yeah, make those changes, and then I'll review the polished pass. All right, so that's the feedback I'm giving it, and I'm going to go ahead and let it run, and the polish is usually like 4 or 5 minutes tops. All right, so it finished running. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I'm on baby duty here, so wearing a carrier now. All right, let's go ahead and watch the polished version, and let's see how it looks. And usually when we, let me drag this here into view so we can see it a little bit easier. And then let's just make sure that the, all right, here we go. Bring this into view. That way you can see the whole thing. And then let's see how it looks now. This video was edited entirely end to end by Claude Code. And this system knows my taste and itself improves over time to get faster, better, and even more polished. All I need to do is take the raw recording, hand it off to Claude, and it does the rest. It handles all the cuts, removes all the silences, and keeps only the best takes. It does motion graphics just like this. And it even handles dynamic frames like this, like this, like this, like this, and this. And it even does subtitles just like this, or hero titles just like this. And even if you're like me and you're terrible at editing, it's totally cool. You get the same polished results every single time. I've made this super easy, and this will edit even while you step away from your computer or even while you sleep. So follow along and I'll show you how to build one too. All right, that was so much better, right? So now that it's finished the polish, it's so clean and just a lot better. So I'm going to tell it, yep, we are good to go. Like this was a lot cleaner, a lot easier to understand. Didn't have as much visual noise, so I could follow along. It didn't feel like I was getting lost in it. This is approved. Let's go ahead and hit captions now. So that's the important part, is to get the visuals really clean before you start layering captions in. So that's why we go through this step by step and layer by layer, so we have a really clean output. So I'll go and let this finish up. All right, captions are done, and I'll spare you from having to watch every little bit, but this is great. So basically what I'm looking for is just caption placement. Does it ever cover my face? All that fun stuff. But yeah, I'm just taking a look through, and it's actually really strong. So yep, this is great. Okay, cool. This is awesome. I'm actually good with it. So this is where I'll say, this is approved. Approved, we can move to the next gate. And then the last thing here is music. So honestly, this is like kind of optional. It's really up to you if you want to add music or not. For this one, I'm probably going to actually just skip background music and sound effects, but just for this one, I don't really care too much about having all that stuff and the flash in there. But if you really want to add music, you can always drop those in. And wait, I actually had a typo here. Approved. We can move on to the next gate. My whisper failed me there. All right. So anyway, that's we'll go ahead and go on to the next gate. So here's what it gives me. Just a little bit guided in the workflow I have. I'll go no music, sound effects, and I'll just do none at all. I don't really want those for this one, but usually I want to make sure I capture those in like the last pass. But we'll go ahead and let it kind of finalize. All right, so for the final run, it'll just say like, hey, before we start deleting everything, because it creates all these different videos, and that's a bunch of file space on my computer I don't want to keep, especially on those drafts. But it's going to give me a quick, in the dry run, like here's what we're going to touch, but it's going to go ahead and start cutting all that and pruning all those, and then just giving us the final deliverable. All right, so it's done, and really inside the folder, I have the final work here. So there's the video editor final, and this was the raw one. But what I want to show you here is happening is now that it's going back through and kind of recording everything that happened in this session, and now it's writing back to a memory, to taste, to preferences, and capturing the things that worked. And so for every polish run or every addition and tweak, it's going back and it's learning back to itself. And this isn't just in Claude memory, because Codex also works out of this folder. I also have GLM work out of this folder. And so this is dropping everything in here for the things that I say I don't like, so that way it doesn't keep repeating those same mistakes. So that's what's happening here at the end, where it's writing back to memory and getting closer to that one shot like every single time. So in the beginning, it was frustrating as crap. And now it basically one-shots 90% of it, and I'm just fine-tuning a couple things, and it gets better and better and better. So that's kind of the loop that happens there. And what I've built here, and this is what's inside the community that people get to start with, rather than going through the aggravating kind of work and time and hours of training this system. So I'm going to go ahead and let it finish up. We're done. it's finishing up. It's kind of summarizing what it captured. Here's the final video, also ready to go in my download, so I can go ahead and ship it and post. But everything else is pretty much done, and this records basically here the things that it changed and things that it learned. So that's where we're kind of sitting, and then the review artifacts and how it lied. Like these are important things, so that way in the future I can verify and make sure it verifies even better first. So there you go. This is how to run the process end to end. Again, you can grab everything in this exact system I already have out there that you can download today inside the school community. Otherwise, this is the process that I used to build it and train it and have a video system that edits all my videos without having to pay for other subscriptions and get things that follow my taste and give me leverage in the day. So follow, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Appreciate you watching to the end. Cheers.